This is AM 660 emergency broadcast. If you're hearing this, if you're out there, you're still alive. That's something. Let's hold on to that for as long as we can. My name is Rick Waters. Normally, I'd be here spinning classic rock hits or complaining about gas prices like I'm someone important. But today's different. Feels like the world flipped upside down while we were all asleep. It's January 15th, day 1, at least that's what I'm calling it. Because this, whatever this is, it's the kind of thing we're going to be counting for a long time. Let me tell you what I know. It started small. This morning, just after 10 a.m., I was getting calls. People asking if I'd heard anything about riots downtown. I shrugged it off at first. Thought maybe it was just some drunk college kids acting stupid. You know how it is. One fight turns into 20 when social media gets a hold of it. But then, the phones wouldn't stop. Listeners were scared. I heard it in their voices. One guy said he saw someone get tackled in the middle of the street. Tackled, that's the word he used. Said it looked more like a rabid dog attacking its prey than a fist fight. At the time, I thought he was exaggerating. I wish that's all it was. By noon, the news stations were on it. The headlines came in like machine gun fire. Mass panic in downtown areas. Emergency services overwhelmed. Avoid crowds. I'm sure you saw some of it. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you were lucky enough to already be holed up somewhere, blissfully unaware that everything we took for granted was unraveling in real time. But I saw it. It wasn't just panic. It wasn't just people fighting. Folks, they were attacking each other, ripping each other apart. I saw a clip, cell phone footage, from Main and Jefferson downtown. A woman, hell, what used to be a woman. She tackled this guy in a business suit, pinned him to the sidewalk, and she bit him. Took a chunk out of his neck like it was nothing. Blood everywhere, screaming, and then she just got up, moved on like he was roadkill. The guy didn't get up, not for a while anyway. By 3 p.m. it wasn't just downtown, it was everywhere. Every station, every emergency alert, same message. Stay inside, lock your doors, avoid the infected. That's the word they started using. Infected, like this is some kind of virus, something you can catch. But it's more than that, way more. The phones went dead around 4. Internet, gone. You can't even get a text through anymore. So here I am, sitting in this little station on the edge of town, piecing together whatever I can. I've got a good view of the highway from here. Normally it's bumper to bumper around this time. Folks heading home, honking their horns, cursing at each other. Now, it's empty. A few abandoned cars, a lot of bloodstains, and the occasional movement. I've been watching them from the second floor here through a pair of old binoculars I found in the break room. They don't move like us. They don't think like us. Hell, I don't even know if they're alive, but they're fast and relentless. There's this one guy been circling the same stretch of road for the past hour, barefoot, torn up jeans. His face, it's just wrong. Sunken eyes, grey skin, and his jaw keeps twitching like he's trying to chew something that isn't there. If you're out there, if you're listening, and you see someone like that, don't wait, don't hesitate, get the hell out of there. Look, I don't know what's coming next. I don't know if this is the end of the world or just the beginning of something worse. But if you're alive, you need to act like it. Find a place you can secure. Get water, food, weapons if you've got them. And if you don't, well, improvise. Don't trust the roads. I know your instinct is to run, to find someone, anyone, but right now people are the last thing you want to find. Stay low, stay quiet, and for God's sake, don't get bit. I don't know what happens if you do, but I've seen enough to guess, and trust me, you don't want that. To the guy who called me this morning from Maplewood, you were right. This isn't a riot. This isn't something we can fix with police and barricades. It's bigger than that, and I don't think help's coming. Not anytime soon. I'm going to keep this broadcast going as long as I can. Don't know how long that'll be, but I'll be here. If you're out there, if you're listening, don't give up. You're not alone. Not yet. This is Rick Waters' AM660 emergency broadcast signing off for now. Stay safe, stay alive. This is Rick Waters broadcasting on AM660 emergency radio. If you're hearing this, you've made it through the first night. That's no small thing. Day 1 hit hard, too hard for most, but you're here, and that means there's still hope. It's January 16th, day 2. And if yesterday felt like the end of the world, today feels like the start of something much worse. Here's what I know so far. It's not much, but it's more than we had 24 hours ago. Stay with me. I'll try to make sense of the madness. First off, let's talk about what we're dealing with. By now, you've probably seen them. Maybe from a window, maybe too close for comfort. They're fast, erratic, and they're hungry. It's not just the bite you've got to watch for. These things, they'll tear into you like rabid animals. But here's the part that doesn't sit right with me. What happens after? The people who get attacked, the ones who don't make it, they don't stay down. Not for long. I've seen it myself now. One of the engineers here, he didn't make it out last night. And, God, I wish I didn't have to say this, but I saw him get back up. Eyes vacant, limbs jerky like a puppet on broken strings. He wasn't himself anymore. If you're out there listening to this, hear me. If someone you know gets bitten, if they start showing signs, fever, aggression, that blank stare, you have to. You can't let them turn. You just can't. All right, let's move on. I've been keeping an eye on the highway, same one I told you about yesterday. It's worse now. Cars abandoned for miles, some still smoldering. I saw a family try to make a run for it earlier this morning. Husband, wife, 2 kids. They didn't get far. It was the noise that got them. Car doors slamming, the kids crying. These things, they hear you, they hunt you. Doesn't matter how fast you run, once they're locked on, it's over. So here's your first lesson for survival, folks. Stay quiet. Don't draw attention to yourself. Forget your car alarms, forget yelling for help. Silence is your best weapon right now. Now, about where you are, your home, your shelter, wherever you're hunkered down. I hope you took my advice yesterday and barricaded your doors. If you didn't, well, you're lucky to still be listening. These things, they're strong, not superhuman, but strong enough to push through flimsy locks and windows. If you're staying put, reinforce everything. Furniture against the doors, boards over the windows. And whatever you do, don't light up your place like a Christmas tree. I've been running this station on backup power, keeping the lights dim. Not sure if it's paranoia or common sense, but it feels safer this way, less inviting. Before the phones went completely dead last night, I got a call from a guy named Eddie. He was holed up in a grocery store with a group of strangers, said they'd barricaded the place with shopping carts and pallets, trying to ride it out. He told me something I can't shake, said one of the guys in their group seemed fine at first, started acting off, sweating, pacing, muttering under his breath. They thought he was just scared until he lashed out, bit one of the others before they could stop him. Eddie said they had to take him down. The guy he bit, he didn't make it, but he didn't stay dead either. This thing, this infection, it's fast. Faster than anything I've ever seen, and it's spreading everywhere. You can't trust anyone who's been bitten. I hate saying that. I hate what it means, but it's the truth. Okay? Here's the latest from what I've been able to piece together. 1. The cities? They're gone. If you're still in one, you need to get out. Now, the streets are overrun and there's no help coming. Not from the police, not from the military. They're either overwhelmed or, well, I'll let you figure that one out. 2. Rural areas are your best bet. Less people means less of them, but that also means less resources. You'll need to get creative. 3. If you're moving, travel light. Only take what you can carry: food, water, a weapon if you've got one. And remember, stay quiet. Noise is a death sentence. I don't know who's out there listening to this. Maybe it's just a handful of you, maybe it's no one. But if you are, I want you to know something. You're not alone. This thing, whatever it is, it's trying to rip us apart. Not just physically, but mentally. It wants us to lose hope, to give up. Don't let it. I know it's hard. I know it feels impossible right now, but you're still breathing, and that's something. Hold on to it. Fight for it, because as long as you're alive, there's still a chance. I'm going to keep this broadcast running for as long as I can. I don't know how much longer I've got here, but I'll be here tomorrow. Same time, same frequency. If you're still out there, tune in. Let me be your anchor in this storm. Until then, stay safe, stay smart, and stay alive. This is Rick Waters, your voice on AM 660 Emergency Radio. It's January 17th, day 3, since the outbreak began. 3 days, just 3 days, and the world is barely recognizable. I don't know how many of you are still out there listening, but if you are, if you've managed to find some corner of this chaos to hang on to, you're one of the lucky ones. Or maybe unlucky, I'm not sure anymore. Either way, you're still here, and that counts for something.
I stayed up all night watching the streets from this studio window. The city. It's gone. What's left of it is crawling with the infected. There's no pattern to their movement, no logic. It's like they're driven by some base instinct. Hunger, maybe. I saw one, maybe it was a woman once, just standing in the middle of the road staring at nothing. Her head was tilted, like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. Then, all at once, she sprinted, full tilt, toward a sound I couldn't even register. God help whoever made that noise.
All right, let's talk about what we've learned since yesterday. First, some clarification on the infection. I've been listening to scraps of military chatter, whatever's left of it, and they're calling this thing a hyper-aggressive neurovirus. Fancy words, but here's what you need to know. 1, it spreads fast. Bites, scratches, maybe even contact with blood. If someone gets hit, you've got minutes, maybe less, before they turn. 2, the infected aren't just mindless. I've been watching them and it's like they're evolving, adapting. Yesterday, they were battering at doors with brute force. Today, I saw one trying to open a door. Clumsy, but deliberate. 3, they don't get tired. Doesn't matter if it's night or day, rain or shine, they're relentless. And that means you have to be smarter, quieter, and faster. Now, about survivors, I've been picking up faint radio signals from other places, other people trying to do what I'm doing. Most of it's just static, but every once in a while there's a voice, a name, a plea for help. I heard one last night. A man named Carlos, broadcasting from a church on the outskirts of town. He said they've got about a dozen people there, holding out with what little supplies they could scrounge. Carlos said something that stuck with me. He said, "We thought the walls would keep us safe, but now they feel like a cage." I haven't heard from him since. Let's switch gears. If you're still alive, you're going to need to stay that way. So here's some survival advice for day 3. First, food and water. If you haven't already raided your pantry, do it now. Take inventory of what you've got. Canned goods are your best friend. Long shelf life, easy to store. Forget about perishables, they'll spoil faster than you think. Water is critical. If you're still in the city, the taps might still work, but who knows for how long. Fill every container you can find, bottles, pots, buckets. And if you're in the countryside, Look for rivers or streams, but boil it first. Always boil it. Next, weapons. I hate to say it, but you're going to need one. Maybe you've already had to defend yourself. If you haven't, it's only a matter of time. A knife, a bat, hell, even a sturdy piece of wood. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you've got something between you and them. And for the love of God, don't get complacent. Don't think you're safe just because it's quiet. Quiet is when they're the most dangerous. They blend in, they wait. I saw one yesterday, slumped against a car like it was dead. Then a man walked by, and it lunged. He didn't even have time to scream. Now I want to address something I've been avoiding. Some of you have lost people, family, friends, neighbors. Maybe you've even had to put them down yourself. I can't imagine what that feels like. I hope I never have to. But if you're carrying that weight, know this. You did what you had to do. This thing, it's not them, not anymore. The people you loved, they're gone. What's left is just a shell. A predator wearing their skin. It's cruel. It's unfair. But it's the truth. And you have to accept it or it'll get you killed. Before I wrap up, I want to share something hopeful. This morning, just before dawn, I saw a group of survivors moving through the street. Quiet, careful, organized. They had backpacks, weapons, even a cart loaded with supplies. They didn't look scared. They looked determined. Like they weren't just surviving. They were planning. Moving towards something, not just away from it. I don't know who they were or where they were going, but it gave me hope. Maybe there's still a chance. Maybe we're not all just running toward the inevitable. I'll be here tomorrow, same time, same frequency. If you're out there, keep listening. I'll keep sharing what I know as long as I can. Until then, stay quiet, stay smart, and stay alive. This is Rick Waters, broadcasting live, or as live as anything feels these days, from AM 660 Emergency Radio. It's January 18th, day 4 of the outbreak. 4 days. Doesn't sound like much, does it? But out there, time's been stretched thin, turned into something else entirely. Every hour feels like a battle, every minute another decision between life and death. If you're still tuning in, if you're out there clinging to some shred of normalcy, welcome back. Or maybe I should be welcoming myself back to you. Because honestly, hearing that faint buzz on the transmitter, knowing even one of you is listening, keeps me going, keeps me human. The world's quieter today. Or maybe I've just gotten used to the chaos. Yesterday, I couldn't turn away from the studio window, watching them, listening to the distant screams and gunfire. But today, it's different. The streets are emptier, the noise softer. Don't let it fool you, quiet is never a good thing. I spent the night scanning for signals, searching for voices in the static. Anything, anyone. I came across one faint broadcast far up on the dial. A woman, desperate, her voice barely audible over the interference. She was begging for help, saying her group was trapped in an apartment building downtown. I tried to respond, but the signal was gone before I could say a word. She sounded so scared. I couldn't stop wondering what happened to her. All right, let's talk about what's new. First off, movement patterns. I've been keeping track of the infected since this started, and I'm noticing changes. They're not just wandering aimlessly anymore. They're grouping up, forming clusters like packs. I watched one group, maybe a dozen of them, roaming together down an empty street. I don't know if it's instinct or if something worse is happening, but it's terrifying to watch. Another thing, noise. Yesterday, I told you to stay quiet, avoid drawing attention. That advice still stands, but there's a wrinkle. They're reacting differently to sounds now. It's almost like they're prioritizing. A car alarm went off a block away from here this morning. They didn't all swarm at once like they used to. Instead, a couple of them investigated while the rest stayed behind. So what does that mean for you? It means they're getting smarter, they're learning, and that makes them even more dangerous. I know many of you are facing impossible choices right now. You're tired, scared, running out of supplies. You're wondering if it's even worth it, but listen to me, you can do this. Survival isn't about thriving, it's not about comfort, it's about outlasting the storm. And right now, the storm is raging. Let's talk about supplies, food, water, medicine. Those are your top priorities. If you're in an urban area, you're probably already running low. And that means you're going to have to make a decision. Do you risk going out for more, or do you hunker down and stretch what you've got? Here's my advice. If you're going out, don't do it during the day. Daylight makes you visible, and visibility is death. Wait for dusk. The infected don't seem to see as well in low light. It gives you a slim edge. Slim, but better than nothing. Stick to small, quick raids, in and out. Don't linger and don't get greedy. Every extra minute you spend out there increases your chances of not coming back. Now let's talk about weapons. If you've made it to day 4, chances are you've already defended yourself. Maybe you've even taken one of them down. If you have, I'm sorry. That's not something anyone should have to carry, but here's the truth. You're going to need to do it again. Sooner or later, you'll be face to face with one of them, and it'll be you or them. Blunt objects work best. A bat, a crowbar, even a hammer. Guns, sure, they're effective, but they're loud, and loud is dangerous. Aim for the head. It's not pretty, and it's not easy, but it's the only way to stop them. Anything else is a waste of time and energy. You know, it's funny. When this all started, I thought the infected would be the worst part of it. The violence, the chaos, but now, I'm not so sure. I've been hearing stories. Survivors turning on each other, groups breaking apart over food, water, petty arguments. It's like the infection isn't just in them, it's in us too, tearing us apart from the inside out. If you're part of a group, hold on to that. Trust is rare now, but it's also the most valuable thing you've got. Protect each other. Watch each other's backs, because the infected, they're relentless, sure. But people? People can be cruel, and that's a whole different kind of danger. I'll leave you with this. There's a small fire station a couple blocks from here. I passed it on day 1, when everything still made some kind of sense. This morning, I saw smoke rising from its roof. Not a lot, just a thin, steady column. Someone's there. Someone's alive. I don't know who they are or what they're doing, but it gave me hope. A little hope in a world that feels hopeless. So if you're out there, if you're still listening, don't give up. Find your own small fire, your own reason to keep going. This is Rick Waters, signing off for now. Same time tomorrow, same frequency. Stay smart, stay quiet, and for God's sake, stay alive. This is Rick Waters, your voice in the void. Welcome to day 5, or as it feels out there, year 5. It's January 19th. 5 days since the world flipped on its head, 5 days since life as we knew it stopped. And today I woke up to something new, something that has me questioning what's really going on out there. I don't know if you've seen it, or maybe you're lucky enough to be somewhere it hasn't reached yet, but the city is cloaked. A fog rolled in overnight, thick and heavy, swallowing entire blocks whole. I can barely see the end of the street from my window. It's not the normal kind of fog either. This stuff, it feels wrong. The air is dense, like it's pressing down on you, making it harder to breathe. And there's this smell, metallic, sharp, like blood mixed with rust. I've lived in this city my whole life, and I've never seen anything like it. I spent hours staring out the window this morning, trying to make sense of it, watching the infected shuffle through the haze like ghosts. Here's what I noticed. They're quieter now. Their movements, their growls. It's like the fog has muted everything. Even the sounds of my own building feel dampened. It's unsettling. And the way they move, it's different. They're slower, more deliberate, almost like they're listening. I can't be sure, but it feels like the fog is doing something to them, changing them. Maybe it's making them more cautious, or maybe it's just making them more dangerous. But I'll tell you this, if you're out there, if you're moving through the streets right now, be extra careful. Visibility is practically zero, and sound travels weirdly in this stuff. One wrong step, one loud noise, and they'll be on you before you even know they're there. Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking. Is the fog natural, or is it something else? Look, I'm not a scientist, I don't have the answers. But I do know this, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. Yesterday, the skies were clear, cold, but clear. Then just after midnight, I heard this deep rumble. It wasn't thunder, it was mechanical almost, like something massive shifting underground. And then about an hour later, the fog rolled in. Coincidence? Maybe. But after everything we've seen these past few days, I'm not ruling anything out. If anyone out there has noticed the same thing, if you've heard the noise or seen the fog, reach out, let me know. I'll keep scanning the airwaves for your signals. All right, let's talk survival. This fog changes the game. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can work in your favor. If you're quiet and careful, you can move through it without being seen. But on the other hand, it's a nightmare for navigation. You can get turned around so easily, end up somewhere you don't want to be. So here's my advice. If you have to go out, mark your path. Use chalk, spray paint, anything. Leave marks on walls, doors, whatever you can find. Something you can follow back. And for the love of God, stay aware of your surroundings. The infected aren't the only thing you have to worry about anymore. I've been hearing stories, more reports of people turning on each other. Desperate times make desperate people. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. You know, I've been doing this long enough now that I can almost hear your voices. The man in the farmhouse holding out with his dog. The young woman sheltering with her brother in a school gym. The guy who called in on day 2, saying he'd fortified an old mechanic's shop. Are you still out there? Are you listening? I like to think you are. I like to think you're holding on, just like I am. That maybe we'll all find each other someday. But until then, I'll keep talking. I'll keep broadcasting, because if I stop, well then I'm just another voice swallowed by the silence. And we've had enough silence, haven't we? Alright, before I wrap up, I want to leave you with one last thought. This fog, it's scary, I know. It changes everything, makes the world feel even smaller and more dangerous. But maybe it's also an opportunity, a chance to adapt, to find new ways to survive, because that's what we are, isn't it? Survivors, we adapt, we endure, we fight. And as long as we keep doing that, as long as we keep pushing forward, we have a chance. So don't give up. Don't let the fog or the infected or the fear win. This is Rick Waters signing off. I'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same frequency. Stay smart, stay quiet, and stay alive. This is Rick Waters, broadcasting on AM 660 Emergency Radio, Day 6. We're 6 days into the nightmare, and I know some of you are counting along with me. If you're still out there tuning in, thank you. You're the reason I keep doing this. And if this is your first time catching my broadcast, well, welcome to the apocalypse. Now let's dive in. Today feels different, heavier. The fog is still here, clinging to the streets like a second skin. I've been watching it from the window. Thick, grey, and suffocating. It hasn't let up in days. And there's something about it that feels unnatural, like it's alive somehow. But before I get to the fog and what I've been observing, there's something I need to talk about, something I've been holding back. On day 3 days ago, something happened here in the studio. I didn't mention it at the time because, honestly, I didn't want to worry you. But after what I've been seeing these past couple of days, I think you need to know. A zombie, one of them, managed to get inside. It must have followed me when I went out to scavenge for supplies earlier that day. I thought I was careful, thought I'd lost it, but apparently not. It happened late at night. I was sitting right here, just like I am now, when I heard the sound. A low, guttural growl, followed by the scrape of something heavy against the floor. At first, I froze. My brain couldn't process it, couldn't accept that something had actually gotten inside. But then I heard the footsteps, slow and deliberate, heading straight for the broadcast room. I killed the lights, grabbed my crowbar, and hid. For hours, I sat in the dark, pressed up against the wall behind the desk, barely breathing. The thing walked around, sniffing, growling, like it was trying to figure out where I was. I could hear its nails clicking against the floor, hear it brushing against the walls. Eventually it left. I don't know why. Maybe it got bored, maybe it couldn't find me, or maybe it heard something outside. But the moment it was gone, I bolted, locked every door, reinforced every window. And here's the thing that keeps me up at night. It didn't break in. The door was still intact, the windows unbroken. It opened the door. Let that sink in. That's been eating at me for 3 days now. These things aren't just mindless, they're evolving, learning. And that's why I decided to share this now. Not to scare you, but to warn you. If they can figure out doors, if they're getting smarter, then we need to be smarter too. Every lock, every barricade, it's more important now than ever. Don't underestimate them. Not for a second. All right, let's shift gears. The fog. It's still here, draping the city like a funeral shroud. It's so thick now, I can't even see the building across the street anymore. Just grey. Endless grey. And it's not just the visibility that's unnerving. It's the sound. There's this hum, low and steady, that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. I heard it again last night, just after midnight. But that's not the worst part. I swear, I heard whispers. Faint, just at the edge of hearing. I couldn't make out the words, but they were there, carried on the fog like ghosts. I don't know what it means. Maybe the stress is finally getting to me. Or maybe the world's breaking down in ways we can't understand. Now, if you're out there, if you're listening, stay sharp. The fog is messing with everything. Sounds don't carry the way they should, and visibility is almost zero. If you have to move, stick close to buildings. Mark your path with chalk or paint, something you can follow back. And for God's sake, stay quiet. The infected are still out there, roaming through the haze like shadows. But here's the thing, they're different now. Slower, quieter, like they're listening. Watching. I saw one earlier today, standing in the middle of the street, completely still. It stood there for almost 10 minutes, not moving, not making a sound. And then, out of nowhere, it sprinted into the fog, faster than anything I've ever seen. What triggered it? What was it reacting to? I don't have the answers, but it's a reminder that these things aren't predictable, and that makes them even more dangerous. Here's what we know. The fog changes everything. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can hide you from the infected. On the other, it can hide them from you. If you're moving, use a flashlight sparingly. A bright light cuts through the fog, sure, but it also draws attention. And remember, don't trust your ears. The fog distorts sound, makes it hard to tell where noises are coming from. If you hear something, don't assume you know where it is. Always double check.
I know it's hard. I know the fear is constant, the exhaustion unbearable. But you're still here. You're still fighting. And as long as you're fighting, you've got a chance. I'll keep broadcasting as long as I can. Same time, same frequency. This is Rick Waters, signing off. Stay smart, stay quiet, and stay alive.
This is Rick Waters, coming to you on AM 660 Emergency Radio. It's day 7, a full week since everything fell apart. 7 days of surviving, scavenging, and second-guessing every decision. But today, something's changed. Something big, the fog, it's finally lifting. I woke up this morning and could actually see the building across the street for the first time in days. The streets below are still empty, still eerily quiet, but the thick, suffocating blanket of grey is fading. Part of me feels relieved. The other part? Terrified. Because whatever brought that fog, it wasn't natural. I don't care what the weather experts would have said. That fog, it wasn't just hiding the infected. It was doing something to them, changing them. I saw it with my own eyes yesterday. The way they moved, how they'd stand completely still, like they were listening to something only they could hear. And the whispers. God, those whispers. I don't know if I imagined it or not. I hope I did. But as the fog rolled out early this morning, the infected didn't just wander off. They scattered. Fast. As if the lifting fog was some kind of signal. I've spent the better part of the day watching from this window, trying to figure out what it all means. The infected are still out there, but now they're behaving differently, more coordinated, more deliberate. And that scares me more than anything. What if the fog wasn't just a coincidence? What if it was the prelude to something bigger, something worse? All right, enough speculation for now. Let's focus on what we can control. With the fog gone, visibility's back. That's a good thing, but don't get comfortable. The infected are still dangerous, maybe even more so now. If you're planning to move, do it cautiously. Take advantage of the clearer view, but keep in mind, you're more visible too. And remember, the infected might be scattered, but they're not gone. Also, if you were waiting for the fog to clear to make contact with other survivors, this might be your chance. But be careful. You know the rule by now. Trust is earned, not given, and desperation makes people unpredictable. Speaking of survivors, I caught another faint signal today. This time it was a woman's voice repeating the same message over and over. Supplies, water, shelter, Westbridge Mall. If you're unfamiliar, Westbridge Mall is about 10 miles south of here, near the old industrial park. It used to be a shopping hotspot back in the day, but now it could be a death trap. I don't know if this woman's message is real, or if it's bait to lure people in, but if you're considering going, do your homework. Scout the area from a distance first. Don't just walk in blind. And if you do make it there, let me know what you find. I'll keep the signal open. Now let's talk supplies. If you haven't started rationing, you're already behind. A week in, and most places have already been picked clean. That means you'll need to start thinking outside the box. Look for places people wouldn't think to check. Storage units, abandoned offices, even vending machines. And don't underestimate the value of barter. If you come across other survivors, trading could be your best bet to get what you need without resorting to violence. Oh, and here's a tip I picked up from a caller before the phones went down. Solar-powered lights. Those little garden lights people used to stick in their yards. They're portable, reusable, and perfect for lighting up a safe house without draining batteries. Feels strange, doesn't it? Talking about garden lights and scavenging tips while the world's falling apart? But this is the new normal. We adapt or we don't survive. It's as simple as that. Before I wrap up today, I need to circle back to something. The incident here in the studio on day 3. I told you about it yesterday, about the infected that got inside. I've been replaying that night over and over in my head, trying to figure out how it happened, how it opened the door. And here's the thing that keeps bothering me. It wasn't random. That infected didn't just stumble in by accident. It came here with purpose. Why? Why this place? I don't have the answers, but it's a reminder that we can't let our guard down, not even for a second. All right, folks. That's enough doom and gloom for one day. The fog's lifted, and that's something to be thankful for. The streets are clearer, the air feels lighter, and for the first time in days, it feels like we can breathe again. But don't let that relief lull you into complacency. The world's still dangerous. The infected are still out there. And now, more than ever, we need to stay vigilant. This is Rick Waters signing off for today. Same time, same frequency. Stay smart, stay quiet, and stay alive. This is Rick Waters, AM 660 Emergency Radio. It's day 8, survivors. We're closing in on 10 days since the world as we knew it fell apart. Every sunrise feels like a victory, but every night feels like a battle. Today I'm going to tell you about what I've seen, what I've heard, and what I've learned. But first, let me set the stage. The streets are quieter now. Not in a peaceful way. No, not at all. It's the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl, the kind that makes you think something's just waiting, and then there's the interference. You might have noticed it on this broadcast. That faint hum, the occasional burst of static. It started early this morning, and it's been relentless. At first I thought it was just the equipment, old machines breaking down under the strain. But then I started picking up fragments of something else. Voices. No, not like the whispers in the fog. These were human voices, faint, fractured, like they were caught in some kind of feedback loop. I've spent hours trying to piece together what I could. Here's what I know. Someone out there is broadcasting, but their signal is weak, distorted. They're speaking in fragments, numbers, coordinates, and words like containment and evacuation. And then there's the most chilling part. I think I heard my own name. Yeah, you heard me right. My name. Rick Waters. I don't know what it means. Maybe it's just paranoia, or maybe someone out there knows this broadcast exists and they're trying to reach us or warn us. This isn't just a coincidence, it can't be. And it makes me wonder, are we really as alone as we think? For those of you with shortwave radios or any kind of receiver, tune into different frequencies. Listen for anything, even if it's just a whisper, a fragment. We need all the pieces we can get. All right, let's switch gears. While I was scanning the streets today, I noticed something strange. There's a building 2 blocks from here, an old diner. It's been abandoned since before the outbreak, but today, there was movement inside. At first, I thought it was just another survivor, but then I saw it. A figure, hunched and shuffling, but not like the infected. It wasn't erratic or aimless. It was searching, moving with intention. And when I looked closer, I realized it wasn't like the others. Its eyes weren't glazed over. Its skin wasn't as decayed. It almost looked aware. I don't know what to make of it. Is it some kind of new evolution, a mutation, or is this something else entirely? If this is a new stage of infection, we're in trouble, big trouble, because if these things are starting to think, to plan, we're no longer just surviving. We're fighting for our place at the top of the food chain. For now, if you see anything that doesn't fit the usual patterns of the infected, stay far away. Do not engage. Observe from a safe distance if you can, but don't take risks. Knowledge is power, but it's not worth your life. Now, let's talk about the fractured signals. If these voices and coordinates mean anything, we might be looking at signs of organized resistance, or maybe even a government remnant. I know it's hard to trust after everything, but we have to consider the possibility. I've written down the coordinates I could make out. If you're in the area, proceed with caution. Here they are. 34 degrees north, 118 degrees west. 32 degrees north, 96 degrees west. For all I know, these could be locations of safety or traps. But if anyone out there can confirm, we need to share what we learn. It's the only way we'll survive. It's hard to believe it's only been 8 days. Feels like a lifetime. Every day brings new horrors, new challenges, but also a strange sense of resilience. You're still here. I'm still here. And that's something. For those of you listening, I want you to remember one thing. Survival is about more than just staying alive. It's about holding on to the pieces of humanity that make life worth living: compassion, courage, hope. So if you find someone out there, someone you can trust, don't let them go. Together, we're stronger. I'll keep monitoring the signals, I'll keep watching that diner, and I'll keep broadcasting as long as I can. This is Rick Waters, signing off for today. Same time, same frequency. Stay sharp, stay safe, and stay human. This is Rick Waters, AM 660 Emergency Radio. Day 9. 9 days since the outbreak began. 9 days since the world we knew crumbled under the weight of chaos. And now, here we are, on the edge of something bigger. Something I can't quite put into words, but I can feel it in my bones. The city feels different today, heavier, like the air itself is bracing for impact. Let me tell you what's been going on. I spent most of today scanning the streets again, watching, listening. The infected are still out there, but their patterns have changed. They're not just wandering anymore, they're gathering. I'm talking large groups, bigger than I've ever seen before. It's almost like they're being drawn to certain locations, congregating, and it's not random. There's something deliberate about it, something organized. I saw one of these gatherings earlier today. It was at an old sports stadium about 5 miles from here. Hundreds of them, just standing there facing the same direction, completely still. It was the most unnerving thing I've ever seen, like they were waiting for something. But what? Whatever it is, it can't be good. If you're near one of these gathering points, get out. Don't hesitate. Don't stick around to see what happens next. We're dealing with something new here, something we don't understand. And until we do, the only way to stay alive is to keep moving. Stay ahead of them. All right, let's switch gears. I picked up another signal today. This one was stronger, clearer than anything I've heard so far. It was a man's voice, calm, authoritative. He called himself Commander Ellis, and he was broadcasting from what he called Safe Zone Echo. Here's what he said. Safe Zone Echo is located at 39 degrees north, 76 degrees west. Supplies are limited. Entry requires proof of non-infection. That's somewhere near the East Coast, if I'm not mistaken. For those of you in that area, this could be your chance. But be cautious. These so-called safe zones aren't always what they seem. We've all heard stories, people walking into traps, getting turned away, or worse. If you decide to head that way, make sure you have a backup plan. Now, I need to address something that's been on my mind since yesterday. The figure I saw at the diner, the one that seemed different. I've been thinking about it all night, replaying the way it moved, the way it searched. And then it hit me. What if it wasn't infected? What if it was one of us? I know it sounds crazy, but think about it. The infected don't move like that. They don't act with purpose. If I'm right, if there are others out there who've somehow avoided turning despite being exposed, it changes everything. We need to find them. We need to understand how they're different. Because whatever's keeping them alive, it could be the key to saving the rest of us. All right, back to survival tips. If you're still scavenging, keep your eyes open for medical supplies, antibiotics, painkillers, even basic first aid kits. They're worth their weight in gold right now. And here's a pro tip. Check veterinary clinics. Most people overlook them, but they're a gold mine for medical gear. Just be careful. Animals might still be inside, and some of them could be infected too. Also, start thinking about long-term solutions: food, water, shelter. If this situation drags on, and let's be honest, it's not going to end tomorrow, we need to start planning for sustainability. Grow what you can, where you can. Even a few potted plants on a rooftop could make a difference down the line. Day 9. Feels like we're teetering on the edge of something. The infected are changing, adapting. The signals are getting stronger, more frequent. And those gatherings, I can't shake the feeling that we're about to witness something monumental. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I do know this. We're still here, still fighting, still hoping. And as long as we're alive, there's a chance to turn the tide, a chance to rebuild. So hold on to that, survivors. Hold on to hope. It might just be the strongest weapon we have left. This is Rick Waters signing off. Same time, same frequency. Stay vigilant, stay prepared, and stay human. This is Rick Waters, AM 660, Emergency Radio, Day 10. The last 10 days have felt like an eternity, but today feels different, heavier, like the city itself knows something is about to break. I don't know how long I can keep this broadcast going. Power's been flickering on and off all day, and the infected, they're closing in. But I'll get through this because you deserve to know the truth about what's happening, about what's coming. Let's begin. I spent the early hours of the morning watching the stadium. You know, the one I mentioned yesterday, the gathering point. They're still there, hundreds of them, standing perfectly still, facing the same direction. But just before dawn, something changed. They started moving. Slowly at first, like a ripple through the crowd, but then faster, more coordinated. And then, out of nowhere, they stopped again. That's when I saw it. A figure, moving through the crowd, but not like the infected. This one was calm, deliberate, almost human. I couldn't see much from my vantage point, but it was clear that the others, the infected, they were following it, not attacking, following, like it was leading them. I know how crazy that sounds. Believe me, I do. But I can't shake the feeling that this thing, whatever it is, has a purpose. And then there's the signals. They're stronger now, louder. Fragments of voices, overlapping, blending together. It's almost impossible to make out any specific words, but one thing stands out. A single, repeated phrase. Phase 2 is complete. Phase 2. I don't know what it means, but if there's a Phase 2, then there's probably a Phase 3, and that terrifies me. For those of you listening, I don't have all the answers. I wish I did. But here's what I do know. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about understanding what we're up against, because it's not just the infected. There's something bigger at play here. Someone or something is pulling the strings. Now let me tell you what happened earlier today. I was on the roof of the station, trying to boost the antenna when I spotted movement on the street below. It was a man, a survivor. He was running, looking over his shoulder like he was being chased. I was about to call out to him when I saw what was following him. It wasn't the infected. It was something else. Taller, leaner, faster. And its eyes glowed. I don't know how to describe it, but it wasn't human, and it wasn't like any infected I've seen before. The man didn't stand a chance. The thing caught up to him in seconds, and then, I'll spare you the details, but it wasn't pretty. We're dealing with something new, survivors, something worse. And it's only a matter of time before it finds the rest of us. So here's what I need you to do. Stay hidden. Stay quiet. And if you see anything that doesn't fit the patterns you've come to expect, run. Don't stop to investigate. Don't try to fight. Just run. Now I need to tell you about the signals. They've been coming from multiple locations, but one frequency stands out. It's clearer, stronger, like it's meant to be heard. And there's a message embedded in it. A simple, chilling message. Initiation begins at sundown. I don't know what that means, but I think we're about to find out. Sundown is only a few hours away. For those of you listening, this might be my last broadcast. The infected are closing in, and I don't know if the station will hold. But I need you to know something. You're not alone. No matter how dark it gets, No matter how hopeless it feels, there are still people out there. People like you, like me, fighting to stay alive, fighting to hold on to what makes us human. So don't give up. Not now. Not ever. If this is the end, I want to thank you for listening, for surviving, for reminding me that even in the darkest of times, there's still a reason to hope. This is Rick Waters, signing off. For the last time, stay sharp, stay human, and stay...